So just so you know, my name is Jen Wood. I am the IDEA coordinator at SSA, all things wonderful in inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. And Octavian is here as our manager of referee development. And you can go to the next slide, Octavian. I myself am on Treaty 4 land, but we do have attendees coming to us from across the province, and those are the lands reached by Treaties 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10. These are the traditional lands of the Cree, Dakota, Dene, Lakota, Nakota, and Saulteaux peoples, as well as the homeland of the Métis Nation. So Octavian is going to be taking you guys through this PowerPoint of an initiative that him and I have been talking about and slowly working with. And that's all I got. There you go, Octavian.
All right. Thank you so much, Jen, and thanks so much, everyone, for taking the time today to be with us. And I guess hopefully take a little bit of information back home for thinking and for to support future initiatives. Obviously, we're very, very blessed to have you working with us. And I would start with a very simple topic, which always needs a little bit of reminding. Referee development and referees in themselves are a very important part of the actual overall development of the game. They are fundamental to the participant experience, and it is quite often an area that does fall behind when it comes to other extremely important areas such as player development and coach development. But within the referee development, there are a number of pillars, which I just wanted to point out here, and we're not going to extensively discuss them, but one of the first ones is related to referee recruitment, which many of you in your local organizations are actively doing at different times of the year. Then we obviously have the extremely important topic of referee registration, which follows their completion of the course of their return. A huge part of referee development is the referee retention piece that we're going to dive in a little bit deeper in the next slide. And then the most complicated one of all, which is related to the referee development piece, the actual development of those individuals, and not the previous few steps. And the majority of us were fairly good at, I'd say, recruiting and registering them and populating the clinics for what they are. And our challenges start when it comes to retention, and obviously development is the most complicated piece, which we can all continue to focus on and try to do the best we can and always push the boundaries to do better. And when it comes to referee retention, an extremely important piece. Some member organizations have this under their realm together with coaches and players, and then across the province, we do have 2 member organizations that are both specifically focused on referee development, and those will be in Saskatoon, in no particular order, Saskatoon and District Referee Association, and in Regina, the Regina Soccer Referee Association. So for a referee, for an individual to come in after they've taken a course, there's a lot of mechanisms of support. This is quite similar to the coaching aspect as well. So there's support and communication that is related to not just game assigning, but any other things. At the very beginning of their career, they need more help than if they're a little bit more seasoned. Appropriate game assigning is absolutely fundamental, because they would not have a chance of having a positive experience if their first experiences are in games that either overwhelm them, or they're above their competency, or they live things that otherwise would have not lived. Training and mentorship and access to it is another extremely important piece. Learning doesn't stop once you've completed the entry-level clinic. Learning within referee development, it's a lifelong skill, and I like to think it is the same as a player and as a coach, as an organizer, as a volunteer. we are all responsible to create and maintain a respectful game time environment, and we'll touch a little bit more on what that means. And there is no place for referee abuse and tolerance. We within our referee best practices, which is located on our website under resources, we've talked about team evaluation and fair play report form, and this is just a very simple idea. We're all very accustomed of a referee evaluation form and referee feedback form, but a very useful tool for many of league operators and many it'll be to have a team evaluation where the referees can also choose to provide you feedback on the behavior of teams, players, and it's very similar. Obviously, it's not something that we're looking for you to find or do anything. It's just pure information that you can choose to collect to form an opinion outside if you're not present at those games. It's extremely important as referee recognition, and the metrics are extensively described in our best practices, which talk about, how many referees do we have, how many of them are coming back every year, how do we populate our clinics, how many of them drop out, why do they drop out, and all of that. But that's just a simple slide, and again, it was very briefly summarized here for you, or some of the aspects that you can think of when we consider when it comes to referee retention. And retention is an extremely important factor because just with everything, competency comes with experience. And if the experience is not accumulated because we're in a cycle where we always lose these referees for whichever reasons, some of them that we can control, some of them that we cannot, then we don't really have the opportunity to keeping them in the game for life, which is what we want, and in itself creating more experience and in return perception of competency from your end. And these are some of the supports that we can all do, right? And I've talked fairly across all of them. There are a couple of aspects that we handle almost exclusively, which are related to assessments and grants, but the mentorships are something that local member organizations can certainly do. And also grants, should you have available place in your budget for your referees, there's something that can potentially support their growth and their expenses. But probably the most important part, and it'll be the first one, creating and maintaining a safe environment or something that they perceive it to be safe is probably the one thing that we can all try to aim to do. It's a 100% of the time type of job, and I guess it's quite often their perception before they join or after they join during the games is usually what shapes up their experience, and then their experiences and their perceptions are what determines them if they want to return or not. Since COVID, this is a bit more prevalent, but I wanted to present to you that you are the first group that sees this slide outside the Saskatchewan soccer staff. Saskatchewan Soccer, together with BC Soccer and Ontario Soccer, have combined on a fairly funded research, which started in early 2023. So the year one findings that I'm going to present to you in the first slide are coming from referees from Saskatchewan that have responded to this research. The research is slated to take place over the course of 4 years amongst all these referees, and we've gone through year one and year two. Year two was this past summer. Year one was the summer of 2023. This is when 16 years and up participants have been interviewed, and it talks about an abuse-free sport. And here on this slide, I'll just slow down a little bit to provide you what the Saskatchewan referees that have responded to this survey have identified. And to remind you that these are 16 and up, so they're not even the youngest ones that we're talking about yet. And as you digest this information, I always say this is putting in a hat of a parent, which many of us are, or a brother or a sibling, and think about what we ask what we could ask, and if we're aware that this could happen when we ask them to become referees, and we recruit them to come into our sport. As you can see, the numbers they look really, really high. They are very, very high. And they might surprise you by how high they look, because in your personal experience, you may have not seen this, or you rarely ever see something like that. But I would say the one part that it's very, very, very concerning. I mean, there's a lot of concerning information that is being shared with you right now, which describes their perception and the way they answered, is this the verbal abuse part. She tells us 89.3% of the referees have experienced verbal abuse from parents, spectators, coaches, or players during or after a game. It's very concerning to see that 40%, sometimes 37.3% often. They're very, very high numbers. When we talk about an environment that we often quote to be a positive and supporting environment. And those are the year one findings. I'm hoping we're going to get the year two and see exactly how that shapes up in year 3 and year 4. So we continue to need their support and their honest, I guess, sharing of their experience via those anonymous surveys. But this is some of the data that I wanted you to see. And this type of data, which is no longer anecdotal, based on my experience when I'm on the field and how often do I see it. This data is why it is important for us to address these aspects of the game, amongst many, many other aspects. And you might be wondering is, why is this happening? Because we talk about this all the time, and we always try to the best of our abilities to behave properly. And I think we might have some ideas, but for that to find together some of the answers. But for that, I just want to present you some normal footage of things that happen on a game that we have hundreds of games on TV all the time. We always tell our athletes to watch games on TV, which is a great thing, because as they see the beautiful skills, they see other aspects of the game on a daily basis. So let's watch the first clip. All right, so I think I hope that the video played well. Jen, can you confirm that the video played decently well on your end?
Yeah, it did. Just a tiny bit choppy, but we were able to see all of it.
Okay. It is not a question of we're trying to determine, is this a foul, is this not a foul? But it's a very simple video that shows a referee decision, a player reaction, and then a justification coming from a group of very, very influential people, which are the commentators, and the people and those people in those positions have a huge influence on shaping up what is a normal thing, what appears to be a normal thing, what appears to be normal behavior, which happens all the time. Because after all, based on the footage that we have in this moment, maybe the referee made an error. And if they did make an error, then I guess because the game is important, when all of your games are always important at every single point when you're thinking, each one of you goes to every game trying to do your best. And they're always important. They always have some kind of meaning. And because of all those reasons and the, let's say, allegation or the perception that there may be an error, we have this kind of behavior. And then quite often we hear, well, the referee should get a thick skin. They should accept this kind of behavior because this and that, this and that. And then on top of that, we have the commentators stating, well, I can understand why, because after all, she would have been and this, right? And this is a part of a cultural thing that we have in soccer, and not just in soccer, in many, many, many sports, where this is absolutely normal behavior. This is part of what we do, and this is just part of the game. So if you want to become a referee, I guess you have to expect this. This is just what it is. And we can talk about this all the time at those international levels, on those public levels, if that is something that is a part of the game that FIFA and Canada Soccer and CONCACAF are trying to correct in a way as of lately. But this is what our players and our coaches see. I'm going to play a couple of more clips. All right, and same thing. I don't know if you were able to see the words. It's very, very common thing in our sports. Two players fighting for the ball. You could argue there's a foul either way. You could argue that there's no foul there. There's always a lot of appeals, and then we have the kind of language. And I would say on these, it's just the kids are watching these. Many of our participants, many of our registrants are watching these games with passion, and they're exposed to this kind of behavior. They're exposed to that kind of language, and based on the lack of action in some of those environments, right, for whichever reason, they think this is, again, just normal. This is how it is. This is how it is. This is what the Premier League shows us. This is what they do it. And if they do that, then this is how we should do it too. I like to think that that's not the thinking, but as we see this all the time within our sport and not many other sports, but obviously I focus more on soccer. People tend to think that this is normal. We'll watch the last clip. And obviously, there's just another example when, again, the behavior of the player followed by a lack of action, which within referee development, this is expected to be a yellow card. The commentator gets a spot on this time, but it doesn't happen. And that's puts a young referee, 15 years old, that's been maybe spoken that way or gives a yellow card. It puts him in a peril because now everybody that may have seen this, they go, oh, you're just too young and too unexperienced. You should have just accepted this because this is how it is. And obviously, they're not in that situation, have that level of experience, or nor do they have to accept this kind of behavior. So that's some of the information. So a lot of it is had to do with data that I presented to you, and then the last 4 clips were mostly related to culture and information. I guess this is what our sport looks like to be from the eyes of the viewership of these events online. And those same viewership are in turn players and coaches and referees that come back and populate our leagues.
So I went to an inclusion conference this May in Ottawa, and this initiative blew up on social media. So Basketball Victoria is in Australia, And their GM of technical officials, her name is Jo Chu, has experienced all types of abuse as an official. This is their basketball club. And what they wanted was just a simple identifier. We don't know the age of our athletes, of our officials on the field. It could be a 15-year-old you're talking to who looks over 20. And I think, like Octavian said, we lose perspective sometimes in a competitive environment, and it can be really harmful, especially on our young referees. And we do depend on them in a big way to take part in our games. So the Green Whistle Initiative is just to check yourself. You know, you see someone out there with a green whistle on, you know already this is a youth. This is an under 18 person who is out on the field as an official. And the hope is, they did a ton of research on this, which we're not going to share. The hope is that if you can check yourself in that environment, you can check yourself again with anybody who's out there officiating. So there's a great write-up about it on Basketball Victoria. You'll be able to link into that. You can go to the next slide. So just a simple signage. If their whistle is green, they are under 18. So we have got some of these now in our possession. And Octavian's going to talk to you briefly about, I believe on the next slide. Yeah, so we'll make some information as well during a rollout of this, posters, banners, just get the information out there. And for us, this is a pilot. We want to pilot this program early 2025 and just see how it goes and how it's received and get feedback. If you want to expand on that, Octavian.
Yeah, no, and I've had very brief conversations with the local referee organizations. We'd like to start in our two largest centers at first, which have the largest amount of games, but also have the largest amount of referees, which are under 18. So that'll be Saskatoon and Regina. The way we are looking at it is that all the returning registrants for 2025, so hopefully by March 2025, and let's say for sure by the outdoor season in 2025, those referees which are as of the time of their registration under 18 will have a green whistle, which we hope that they will use, and this is how you'll be able to identify them. In addition to Saskatoon and Regina, we're slowly going to roll out via the entry-level clinics, and it is our hope to cover as many, or the plan is to cover all the entry-level clinics with that. So by outdoor 2025, there'll be lots of green whistles across the province to allow the program to gather and information and hopefully allow the participants to try to check themselves, as Jen has politely put it, and if all goes well, it is our hope in 2026 we're going to expand to returning registrants in other areas. In which case we will need a lot of assistance from each specific registrar in each member organization, which are registering referees. But that's just the beginning when it comes to the rollout, and yeah, that's what we do. As always, is what can we all do? Is obviously as the leagues are happening and they're going, is just like you do. Obviously provide them access to registration games and mentorship and support access to the SSA referee development programs and any SSA competitions. And those are just some of the metrics that we do. So we talk about local education sessions and all that. That's more so specific information towards your referee portfolio, your referee development people. And if you don't have them in your member organization, that's probably a good thought for you to consider, of starting to think in that direction, to have them. And obviously your pride will be to have those referees involved in SSA competitions once their performance and their competency level get close to having them involved in our competitions, in our SSA development programs, and having them access further down the pathway to become regional referees and provincial referees, and even past that. As you might be aware, we had a FIFA ref. We have a FIFA referee in the name of Chantal Boudreau from Regina. We have a national referee in Daniel Boudreau. We have Shukriya Tajik in the women's program. We have Theo Didrikson in next gen program. We have lots of young and extremely competent match officials in our province, which would have lots of success. And the one thing that I think we should all aim on, ideally, the information presented to you allows you to consider why this is a must and not a can. But the long-term sustenance of our programs has to do with retaining them for as long as possible. Has to do with having many of them that can develop, and as they develop and they compete, just like players and coaches do, the level should hopefully increase. A very simple, I guess, thing for anybody here in this meeting to do is to be aligned with the SSA Section 5 and discipline policy. It's something that we have under our bylaws and policies. This is something that is an absolute normal thing to expect from a member organization, and that's a very simple thing to do. And that's just one of the examples. I know, of course, as we reach out to you, support and promote the referee surveys to continue to gather actionable data and all the information that can be used to help us continue to focus on important topics as they provide us. And with that, I say, we're going to open up to any questions, Jen?
Yeah, I will stop the recording now. So if you want to